You're listening to Two Chunks and a Hunk. Movie musings for mostly everyone. Welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk. My name is Jordan Wonders, and this week I'm your hunk.
I'm Doge, and
Chunk has cost you your strength. Victory has defeated you.
And I'm Carter, and...
Yes. I was wondering what would chunk first. Your spirit or your body?
The part where he's like,
grabs his...
I didn't see the light until I was a man. And by then, it was nothing but banging.
like it's so intense all of a sudden. Oh, man.
Yes, I love that.
hey, why are you the hunk?
Birthday.
Cool. And we're talking about a movie this week. No. Tell me more about your birthday.
Got born, growed up,
Tight.
comes around every year.
Tight, dude.
It's my turn again.
That's sick.
It's my
On
turn
your
again.
birthday?
Do you feel in charge?
Well, you know, if you guys weren't nice to me today, it would be very painful.
for you.
My favorite thing about this opening is that
The identity of the birthday boy is no longer a mystery.
I think the fact that it's a audio medium, it's lucky that all three of us have.
Such a lovely, lovely voice.
I'm afraid that soon people are going to.
Stop listening to our podcast.
It's like not a quote anymore.
We've
run out.
Have you ever thought about this movie in the
Actually, yes.
Raimi memes caliber of like quotability?
Oh, absolutely. Everything, like even while watching it, I was like, that's from a meme.
That's a meme.
joke.
That's a meme.
That's
quote.
a line. Yeah.
That's a meme quote. It's always a meme quote. This
Yep.
whole movie,
Always meme.
which is great. We are continuing and almost the penultimate episode.
Carter's word.
It's
Our
here.
Batman series. We're wrapping up the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy with 2012's hottest movie, other than Avengers.
The Dark
Knight Rises.
Other than the Avengers. That was the same year.
Wasn't it? Or was
Yeah.
it 2011 for the Avengers?
No, that was the same year. It was 2
2012.
months before this.
Yeah.
There was a trailer for this attached to the Avengers.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Wow.
Good year for superhero fans. Doge, would you mind just this once? I don't like
Yeah.
to ask this of you, but if you would give me a synopsis, that would be really great.
I will. This week's synopsis was written by IMDb user Dan Edge.
I'm on the edge of death.
Yep. From a far side of the world, a lunatic rises from the darkness.
Yikes. Okay.
Determined to annihilate the city of the Dark Knight, who has been hiding for 8 years. Joining forces with old and new allies, Bruce Wayne must put his mask on one last time to finish what he had started and become a hero again.
My super dump is Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I just wanted Carter's heart to drop real quick.
Do you guys remember
was
going
that
to
okay? How did that
Are you
feel?
all right?
I'm fine.
Do you need to take a second? Okay. Do you guys remember going to see this movie?
I
Did you see
do.
this in the theater?
I do. I was on a
sure did.
family vacation.
Wait, you saw where? What state?
We were in California.
Okay.
And I told my family, I was like, this is a great vacation, and I hope we're all having a lot of fun. If I don't see this movie on release night, I'm gonna act up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna be a real pill.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went to go see
More
it.
so than usual.
More so than usual, which is saying something.
Which
we
is
went
a
to go
lot.
see it in IMAX. It was like the biggest theater I think I've still ever been in. The energy was pristine. This
it's
movie
awesome.
was an experience in theaters. It was so huge.
I remember with how many kind of like mobs. There were tons of extras. I remember that being a news, like fun stuff early on about the filming. I remember seeing stills of Batman and Bane fighting on the steps of like the courthouse in Gotham, and they were like, they got thousands of extras to do this. The most since, I think they would say like Lord of the Rings trilogy or something.
The
like
most
that.
since Ben-Hur. Yeah.
But yeah, the energy just with how much is going on, especially near the end when there's so many people, and the energy with the theater, they kind of felt one and the same. It was fun.
Yep.
I was on a church camp trip. I was at church beach camp when this came out. And they took all the this is going to both make me seem very old to some of you listening and very young to some of you co-hosting with me. They let all the seniors go see this movie. So that's how I saw this movie on vacation. But not
You can just say me.
76-year-olds.
Yeah.
You could just say, you said some of you would feel old. You could just say me. I'm the
Carter,
only one.
I'll make you feel old. Well, I mean, you were married already when this came out?
He was married. Yeah.
Your kids had just finally left the
Kid that
nest.
just finally left the nest.
Empty
Just
nester.
got married, just became an empty nester.
I was in my second year in college.
That's not, I mean, I was a high school senior. I had just finished my senior year. So,
Yeah. Wait, no, sir.
no, I
was
was
in
going to
grad
say,
school.
There's no way
I
that
was in
that
grad
came-
school.
you were in grad
I always
school.
forget. Yeah.
And I had just graduated from high school. So,
Yeah.
same.
Grad school, grad from school.
Graduated from school. Same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same. Same.
This, for a long time, I maintained that this was my favorite of the Dark Knight trilogy. It is not my
That
favorite
is
of
one
the
of
Dark Knight trilogy.
That is like one of my first memories of you. Is like,
Oh, really?
Because we met the fall after this came out,
right.
and talking about like, dude, did you see Batman this summer? Yeah, I saw Batman this summer. I think The Dark Knight was better. I don't. I think The Dark Knight Rises was way better. I think it's the best of the Nolan trilogy. Like within hours of meeting you, I remember you saying that.
Probably on our long truck ride to Best Buy. I think
I love that story.
it
Like
is no
Doge and I
longer-
got connected on a long car ride too. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was I think it was to camp.
Oh, wait,
So,
no,
like-
I did know that. Yeah.
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 I did know
That's
that.
when he
true.
discovered Dawes.
Yeah.
So
and I
good.
discovered Doge.
Beautiful.
And everybody, everybody discovered a friend.
That's right.
This is no longer my favorite of the Dark Knight trilogy. However,
Okay.
this movie has detractors, and I am most certainly not one of them. I will go down with the ship on the Dark Knight Rises.
What is the go-to utility belt detractor statements? Like
So,
why do people?
I think this movie simply suffers from how good the one before it was. I really think
completely
that's
agree.
the biggest.
I think this is so I have found myself aligning maybe more closely with somebody who would be considered a detractor of this movie after this watch, because I think it's good. This is a better sequel to Batman Begins than it is to The Dark Knight. This does not feel cut from the same cloth as The Dark Knight to me. This very much feels cut from the same cloth as Batman Begins to me. And I think that's because, like with Batman Begins, that's an innovation in the way we tell a Batman story. With The Dark Knight, that is a further innovation in the way we tell a Batman story. And this feels like it's an iteration on what has come before. It doesn't really feel like we're reinventing a lot
Sure.
with this one. And so I do think it is not as good. I do think the detractors would primarily say the main thing wrong with this is that it's a sequel to The Dark Knight.
Yeah, and I think I can climb on board with that logic. For me, it's still my second favorite of the Dark Knight trilogy. And I just think it is. This one is more fun than The Dark Knight, I think. Like, whereas The Dark Knight is like a better movie, I think this one is more fun.
Yeah. I feel like I had never heard about it feeling more just like a sequel to Batman Begins. That makes sense because it feels like the main conflict is Bruce with himself in both
Right.
of those. And just kind of having to overcome something. It's not about the relationship dynamic of the villain. So I get that.
I know. So let me start. I'd like to super dump. Just get it out of the way. Still, by the third movie, the Batman combat sucks.
Yeah.
The fight choreography for Batman is really bad.
To the point where I'm ultimately unsurprised when Bane completely mops the floor
Yeah.
with Batman.
Batman is stiff and slow, and I don't mean because Bruce is old. I mean the Batman fight choreography is bad.
So we still, I think, I don't want to. I'm not taking over your super dump. I feel similar about that. It's not my super dump. I think this episode is probably a good time for us to kind of do a preparing to talk about a new iteration of Batman too. Because when you say things like that, I'm like, okay. Because I think when people look at the whole like Batman cinematic canon, all of Nolan's stuff, it's like it does feel really risky for Matt Reeves to come back and do like Batman. It's like, what could you possibly do better? It was like, well, one of them, like there's probably more obvious things than not.
Yeah.
One of them is choreography, I would assume. But yeah, keep going.
No, I totally agree. Even from just the trailer, it looks like the Matt Reeves Batman fight choreo is
very Daredevil,
head and shoulders above.
I mean,
I think
that's even one thing that Batfleck has on Bale is like the combat, the choreo with Batfleck was really great.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think having just finished a rewatch of Daredevil and then watching this, it's like, man, Daredevil's fighting like Batman should be fighting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
it's interesting because they just announced, DC just announced the newest writer for Batman is is it Chip Zdarsky maybe?
Chip Gaines.
It's Chip and Joanna. They're writing a new Batman. The fixer-upper. No, but he's writing Daredevil right now. He's finishing out his Daredevil run with Marvel and also going to be writing Batman at the same time.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
There's a lot of shared blood between these two characters. That's an interesting conversation for another time, but that's very interesting. I like that a lot. Let's talk a little bit, if we can, about let's sort of set our framework for this movie in contrast with like the Gotham of The Dark Knight. What are we, 8 years after? Or is it 10? No, it's 8.
It's 8.
8 years later on Harvey Dent Day, and Gotham has been like virtually crime-free.
But that's only because the Dent Act is essentially unilateral power.
Right.
For local governments.
It's martial law without being martial law, basically. And
I think the movie's pretty muddy on that stuff, honestly. Like the Dent Act being good but bad for the people of Gotham. You know what I mean? The fact that it is martial law, that it does give the police unilateral power and sort of turns Gotham into a happy police state. And then there's a sad police state when Bane and his revolutionaries come in. And then the final fight of this movie is Batman leading an army of cops against Bane's army and also maybe some people from Gotham who've joined Bane's side. It's just really, really like from a plot and messaging standpoint, it's super muddy and obviously now 10 years later, very unsettling.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it suffers a lot from. I think in 2012 there was a general. There was not as much awareness of, like among the general public, there was not as much awareness of the pain, the darker side of policing and what that can sometimes do for ordinary citizens. And so in this movie, it was just like, the cops sprinting headfirst into war with the terrorists with Batman on their side. It's like all good. I think now, after seeing several years of justified civil unrest at unethical police practices, I think it becomes a little grimier.
Well, I think it's just it's a reflection of how the conversation around governing has shifted.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that this movie wants us to be sympathetic with the billionaires who are victims of an Occupy Gotham.
Oh, I don't
movement.
think that. I don't think that.
I do feel that this movie paints it a little bit as like, oh, these poor folks are getting thrown out of their homes by Bane. Bane has to be stopped. Well,
no, I don't
Bane's
read that
definitely
at all.
a populist hero. You know, I don't know. It's much muddier than perhaps any other Batman movie that we've talked about so far.
That section of the mud I read as intentional, that it's supposed to be like, well, I can see why people would jump behind Bane because he is giving them back what they deserve and kind of sticking it to the wealthy class. I didn't read that.
I think
as like,
you even
poor
see that.
Billionaires. I didn't read that at all.
I think you do see a lot of that in Selina's relationship with Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, how good is our casting director at finding slimy boys?
Good.
Brett Cullen as the congressman. You remember him from there's lots of stuff. He was Thomas Wayne in Joker, but he was also in, I think, True Detective as a really awful person
Every time I see him, I think he's Chris Cooper. Like, wait, no. Chris Cooper looks like a caricature of him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we have Littlefinger. I mean, we've got Bern Gorman, Ben Mendelsohn, Matthew Modine, who I'm just like, Stranger Things vibes from all those guys. I was like, oh, so slimy. And half of them are at that party at the beginning, and I'm like, good job, man.
Yeah.
I'm already like, I don't know what role you play. I remember the first time watching, I was like, these are not good guys.
Yeah.
Ben Mendelsohn, one of my most quoted
Here it is.
movie lines of all time, just because of the way he says it. Can we get some girls in here? It's just too good.
I like
Casting director seems to have had kind of a blank check on this stuff.
For sure.
I would see so. There were so many, like there was even smaller roles that I was like, is that the guy from Dexter? And then
Juno Temple was the big surprise this watch.
I've always known like that was Juno Temple, but then like watching it, it's like seeing it for the first time. Like, oh wow, you've had quite a career since then.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very fun.
There's a lot of characters in this movie.
Yeah, can I super pump?
Yeah.
My super pump is going to be what I'm just going to call the mentors, and I'm going to break some rules here, but I think the support for this guy that they love, Bruce Wayne, and just trying to like help him just get through it. Like this is the lowest we've seen Bruce, and it's the weakest we've seen Bruce. And there were these three guys that were trying to run things without him. So that's Michael Caine's Alfred, Gary Oldman's Commissioner Gordon, and then Morgan Freeman's Lucius Fox. I think these three, I think there is something very powerful about like that mentorship role and the vulnerability of these three older men to him. And I think that makes Bruce's climbing out of the pit so much stronger, because it felt like very serious beats by Chris Nolan to make sure that you're seeing these one-on-one, impactful, poignant, vulnerable, thoughtful conversations between every one of these guys that play very different roles but very similar roles. And I didn't even catch that dynamic so much in previous iterations, but like in this movie especially, I just loved it. And I think you could argue that it's also all three of those guys' strongest installments.
Yeah, I agree with that.
For sure, Michael Caine's. I mean, the scene with those two on the stairs in basically the electric bill is about to go out in Bruce Manor, and he's actually revealed to him.
That's the end.
Well,
I always think of it on the stairs, but that's the end. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking of the one where he reveals to him about the letter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But and then you remember, right? Because it's got to be so interesting for Christian Bale, who is just such a give his all guy. I think he's just known for that in Hollywood, physically, emotionally. You know, we've even got some of the behind the scenes stuff, like, you know, whenever it breaks on, what's the news outlet where it'll break stuff that's like someone had their phone out on a set or something of like Christian Bale just getting way too invested.
Yeah.
But anyways, to do all that.
That was the set of this movie, right?
No, I thought it was
that was Terminator Salvation, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I forgot he was in that.
But to see him get emotional and like Bruce Wayne cry, you realize how long it took us before we saw something like that and how impactful that was. And so, yeah, I think these mentors were pulling that out of him, maybe in more ways than one. So that's my super pump.
No, my super dump was almost that there was not nearly enough Alfred, Gordon, and Fox in this movie for how much they have contributed to the other two movies to almost not quite write them out, but like Gordon's role was bigger in The Dark Knight, but his role in the city was bigger in this movie. We just see less of it, you know?
I do feel that crunch, though, of like, man, the characters I loved from the last one are almost getting sidelined by this script so that we can talk about John Blake and Selena Kyle and Bane and Miranda Tate and Daggett. Like, there is a whole new group of characters that's kind of pushing the other characters that we've spent the past two movies talking about off to the side a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
It's tough to have clarity on that because I can't disagree with you either. It's the same kind of pace that we had in Dark Knight with how many times like things are cut. Like there's so many scenes I forget. Like Miranda Tate, I could argue was like, I feel like she was the least amount that we see. But then I was like, well, maybe there was a scene of maybe there was a 30-second Miranda tape between a Selena Kyle and a Daga. You know, it's just like
it's that Nolan pacing where it's just like like the whole way through.
Speaking of things that Nolan tends to fall into, this was the first, I think, instance of dialogue being unintelligible because of the way that the movie is mixed.
Yeah,
we had captions.
And that's something that keeps cropping up in Nolan films, and he's got to be doing it intentionally at this point, and it drives me insane.
Yeah. Especially when you can't read lips.
Yeah, with the mask. That's a good point.
I mean, I've seen this movie probably 10 times, probably somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I still don't know
what the main character's name is.
I can't figure out which one of them is supposed to be a bat. No, I think that I probably catch about 70% of what Bane says.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had captions on and I learned so much.
Did you guys know his name's Bane?
It's called Gotham. I've been calling it Gotham this whole
Bane
time.
has infinitely more lines
City.
than he did in Batman and Robin.
Bomb.
Yeah, so I really love Tom Hardy's performance as Bane. I think that it's a ton of fun, so weird,
so strange,
in like a great way that makes it stick out, and he's almost iconic because of how out there he is.
Can you imagine
like
the
just
pressure?
put a mask on Bronson.
Yeah,
right,
for real.
100%.
Imagine the pressure of Tom Hardy being like, "Hey, you're cast as the villain in the follow-up to The Dark Knight." Whoa.
I don't know why in my head, I know he's a regular person, so yeah, I'm sure he felt the pressure, but in my head, he just woke up and was like, yeah, it's fine, I'll do it.
It's fine, I'll do it.
Just put him on those massive traps of his. He can save away the world.
He's enormous in this movie.
He's very, very large in this
But
movie.
also 5'8".
Is he 5'8"?
He's a little boy. He had to wear.
He was that small.
He had to wear like 6-inch lifts in his shoes in this movie
What, Tom? Just
to be taller. Yeah, little tiny Bane. It's like a little meatball.
He's like,
They're expecting one of us in the wreckage, brother.
I put the cup, but there was no need for it. Honestly, if I'm being very real with you. Okay. So let me talk about a couple of things rapid fire here as we get closer and closer to shout announcements. I want to say, I stand by this. I'll die on this hill. Anne Hathaway's never done anything wrong, and she's perfect in every role that she's in, and that includes Catwoman.
She's good here.
So don't
She is good
even
here.
step to
Talk about
Anne.
So Catwoman will be outside of Batman, different Batmans, the most that we've seen like in the Batman series, right? This is our third Catwoman that we're going to get.
I think
in the new Batman
if you
movie.
count Joker standalone, then they are tied, I believe. But if you don't count that, then yes, she's the second most.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. I think that's going to be, it's just like bang, bang. It's weird to have one right after another one.
That's
gonna
a
be
good point.
An interesting dynamic. Anyways.
I think that Zoe Kravitz is going to be a better fit for the role than Anne Hathaway
Absolutely
was.
agree.
But I think that
100%.
Anne Hathaway is a great fit for this universe.
I think Anne Hathaway does a great job. I don't know. I don't feel like the script gives her. I feel like a lot about Catwoman is told to us rather than shown. That this is it feels like an exposition heavy script. And it just, I don't know. She's another instance of here's a new character that is introduced, whose whole deal is introduced, complicated, and resolved in this one movie. I don't know, man. It just feels like the end of a trilogy is when you kind of need to be wrapping things up.
Sure.
Not beginning, middling, and ending whole new things that we've not talked about at all up to this
Here's
point.
what I sincerely, honestly believe happened is that someone played Arkham City.
Yeah.
And the end choice with Catwoman, they were like, "What? That's pretty good. That's pretty interesting." And then put her in. She doesn't bother me. I understand where you're at with the wrapping up of the trilogy thing, but this was not a continuous story from start to finish of the trilogy anyway. It's not Lord of the Rings where they took 3 movies to tell one story. It's 3 stories, 3 movies, 1 main character, essentially. So I'm not overly bothered by the introduction of these new characters. I am bothered by the brushing away of our old faves.
Yeah.
That part does bother me. And I understand that the new characters are the catalyst for that brushing away. So I guess you could say my feelings are a little complicated. Marion Cotillard is always great. I really appreciate her in everything. I think that adding Talia is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need for it. We could have just let Bane be Bane. I don't feel
It's
the
twist
need.
though. I think
It's
Nolan
because
was
we
like,
wanted the
it's not
twist of
twisty
her
enough.
climbing out of the pit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, isn't the twist of the fake death of Batman enough of a twist though? You know, like
Ooh, we were
we've
going to
seen
talk
that
about
before.
the fake death of Batman.
oh, I'm sure we're going to.
I think that Miranda Tate is pretty severely underwritten.
Yes.
Like one of the worst instances of a character just showing up, and then there's dialogue telling us this character's whole entire deal. She seems to, and I know that it's because like her plan is to, I guess, get close to Bruce so she can take over Gotham or whatever for the League of Shadows. But like on first watch, she very much exists only to sort of give pleasure Bruce Wayne in a Wii Sports kind of way
sure.
in this script.
Sure. Which their relationship in the comics is storied and long.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
we probably should confine it to 30 minutes of our final movie of our trilogy, right?
right. Yeah, that part makes it tough. No, there's definitely a lot to unpack specifically in like post the hour mark of this movie. Things really take off. And there's
I would actually argue that pre the hour mark, virtually nothing happens.
it's all set up. It's a lot of setup.
It is
before
it
the
is
hour
such
mark.
a slowly paced movie
until
and
it isn't.
Until it isn't, and there is like a shockingly small amount of Batman in this movie.
It did feel like this movie feels like Nolan was done after The Dark Knight, and they're like, got to do one more, big homie, and he was like, all right. that's fine now.
He was.
I know.
He didn't really want to come back, and he was like, I guess I found a script that works. And WB is like, great, use the Riddler, cast DiCaprio. And Nolan says, well, no, I'd actually rather use Bane. And they're like, okay, fine, just make it. It's got to be 2011 or 2012.
Yeah. I'm not like a expert on trilogy or anything. It does feel like the third of the trilogy should be building off the fact that the first two had a slow start. Or like it feels like it doesn't have to be like a reset.
It didn't have
Okay,
to be as slow of a start, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Although, and we'll talk about it right after the shout announcements, but my super bump. My super pump comes
It's my
as
favorite
a
Nicki
result.
Minaj song.
My super pump comes as a result of our long, slow build. So
Okay.
now it's shout
And
announcements time.
with that tease.
And as I dangle the carrots, you won't stop the podcast. You're getting very sleepy, but you won't stop the podcast.
You'll be expecting one of us in shout announcements, brother.
And it's me. I'm the one in shout announcements. Hello, welcome to shout announcements, the part of the show where we
That's
give
like
shout-outs.
that's a pretty good Bane, by the way.
Really?
Like
great,
the
yeah.
timbre is there.
I think part of it is how deep the cup is. It's a very big cup.
Really? I'm just using a mug.
Yeah, I think.
Mine is not quite there.
Yeah, I think I have a higher voice than you, and then also
I'll do it like you then.
Mine is not quite there.
It's me, Bane.
yeah, it's about like that. It's about right in that register. Listen, next week, finally, it's time to talk about Battinson, the Batman.
I'm so
I
excited.
have to have a Batman calzone before then.
Matt Reeves is the Batman. Oh yeah,
I haven't
done
eaten
that
one
I
yet.
haven't done that yet.
I tried to go. I tried to get one. I tried to keep my promise to our listeners that I would eat one before we recorded The Dark Knight. And Little Caesars was closed.
Pathetic.
I'm so sad for you.
Pathetic. It's disgusting. Don't they care? Don't they care? Anyway, tune
Not
in
about
next
me.
week to hear us talk about Matt Reeves' The Batman.
Also, if you want Will Arnett's The Batman, it only costs you $3. And you'll get more than that. You'll get all the other Patreon episodes we've done before it. And you'll get an extra vote. Just that $3 tier on Patreon gets you the extra vote and gets you extra episodes. The $5 tier gets you into our Discord chat, which is, I'm not going to say becoming anymore. It has become the main source of movie knowledge and TV knowledge and now book knowledge and video game knowledge. It is a group that very organically realized, look at all the things we have in common. And
Look at all the stuff we all love.
Here's an environment we've never had before. And it's not just about having things in common. It's about having, arguments of one way or the other about certain things. So it's fun. It gets you access to when Box Office Wall Season 3 rolls around. It's just going to be one of the best $5 a month that you can spend to support the podcast. Outside of getting all that stuff, you're helping this podcast out, and that's wonderful.
We did want to let you guys know about some new merch that we've got up. We're trying out a new merch storefront, and we're super happy with it so far. So if you head to twochunksandahunk.com and you click the merch tab, you'll be redirected to a spot where you can buy some stickers. We have some socks up there now. We have some canvas tote bags, but a lot of it features our new art that we unveiled last week on the show, and there's an itty bitty podcast mug too that I really like that I'll probably be purchasing.
The merch is so good. I'm definitely going to get a hat.
Yeah, the hats are super cool. So we'd love it if you'd check that out and maybe pick something up to support your pod boys. But if that seems too difficult or too expensive for you, a free thing you could do is rate or review us on either iTunes or Spotify. We're on a mission to collect every star. And so far we have an average of 5 of them on both. And so we would love you to add your stars to the pot.
Much like Mario, we are on a mission to collect every star.
Much like Mario, our podcast is in another castle, but we would love the stars while you're there.
You could do both too. You could buy the merch and do the free stuff.
You have to choose.
No, you don't. Hey, no, you don't.
You have to choose.
No.
We'll know. We'll know if you don't choose. We'll know if you try to do both.
No, we want them to do both. What is this character?
I just want to leave some for the other podcast. I don't want to get greedy with action steps, you know?
For the first time ever, I'm going to bring us back into the episode with my super pump. I've never done it before, but I'm going to try today. It goes a little something like this. My super pump is a combination super pump of 3 separate moments from this movie. You know how I feel. We've talked about it. You know how I feel about a superhero's ability to offer hope. I think it's very important. I think it's very interesting.
It's not an S, though. On my planet, it means hope.
There are 3 moments. Number 1 is the young orphan boys on the bus seeing Batman save them.
Carry that bomb?
When they're like, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's definitely going to do it. And then he does it. The second moment is, light it up. And then Gordon lights up the bat signal in flames on the bridge, and everybody knows whose town this one is.
Super cool.
And then third, and my favorite, the one I'll zero in on, is the return of Batman for the first time in 8 years in the tunnel with the 2 cops.
Taken almost directly from The Dark Knight Returns. And the older cop is
for a show tonight.
That is JJ from JJ's Diner.
Yes, it is.
From Parks and Rec.
Yes, it is. When the lights start going out because the bat pod is flying through.
Yeah.
It's just, in a movie that is fairly sloppy, such a great Batman moment.
Yeah.
There is something to Batman being almost a mythical being, even in the eyes of Gotham City.
Yeah.
That it's not just like, yay, Batman's here. It's like, wait, what? He's real?
Yeah.
That when he rolls up and the cops are in disbelief and he just one-man armies all the way through this tunnel.
It's amazing.
It is so Batman.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's leaning into that big difference that we had, right? Of it just being like any Batman before Nolan didn't seem intimidating, really. Right? To be able to just put the team on his back and do it himself. You know, that's the new Bond vibe and everything too that we got from that. So there's 2 flavors of Batman and that I really enjoy. We get both in the arc of this trilogy. One is the wait, who is this guy? And the surprise comes from like, oh, he is as scary as everyone said he was in all the rumors. And then the other vibe of Batman I love is the my reputation precedes me Batman. Of like, the lights go out and everybody's like, oh no, it's definitely Batman. And I love both of those vibes. And I hope that Reeves' Batman can eventually get to the my reputation precedes me era. But I hope that this first one is he's just as fast as strong as all the Gotham City underground rumors said.
Yeah.
I like both.
Yeah.
I like both flavors.
I was going to say something and it has just left my brain.
Crazy, man.
It's gone.
I like that about you.
I'm just wild like that. You can never predict when I'm going to forget something.
Okay, let's talk about Joseph Gordon-Levitt because I'm tired of not talking about Joseph Gordon-Levitt. John Blake is kind of just like sloppily tacked onto this movie.
Yeah, I'm conflicted.
The Robin
Definitely.
reveal at the end is a little goof.
It's dumb. John Blake. I mean, he basically is Tim Drake.
Right. Yeah.
Because Tim is the Robin who just deduces Batman's secret identity and basically says, "Hey, I'm Robin now."
Yeah. But then on the other hand, it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he's crushing it.
I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I do not like John Blake like as a presence in this movie,
Right.
Because he takes the heroic action that I
Should
feel
be
like
Gordon's.
belongs to Gordon or Batman. Like there's a point where he is like investigating when he discovers that Bane has been pouring concrete laced with explosives. It's like this is just a kind of generic action movie at this point. There's really not a lot of superheroing happening here.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not my super dump, but I like this. I don't know, guys. For The Dark Knight, when we watched it last week, it was like I'm turning off every light in my house. I'm making sure my dog is being very quiet. I'm having popcorn. Like I'm having a pristine experience. Yeah. And for The Dark Knight Rises, this was I'm okay to get up and get a snack kind of movie. Where it was like, I'll walk away from the TV for just a second and grab some carrots or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it centers around, it really does, now that I'm, in retrospect, realizing that a lot of it was during John Blake's wild investigations. Where it's like, this is not the Batman. This is not a Batman movie. This is not what I signed up for. Not what I wanted to watch when I said I want to watch a Batman movie.
Yeah, I think of all the characters to have a beginning, middle, and end, this one's the most conflicting because it feels the most influential without an ultimate payoff for me. I mean, he does wonderful things of being like, the kids are just going into the bus. I want them to at least feel like they're safe.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, those kiddos have the worst teacher. Like,
Yeah,
who's that?
for real.
Are you kidding? He's like, we're going to die. I'm like, you're an
Stop
awful
telling
person,
them that.
dude.
Yeah.
Whisper it to me, your fellow adult. Don't just scream.
He's showing elements of like, hey, this is the spirit of who should protect Gotham if Bruce is gone, which
it is very important to me that we all acknowledge that he is absolutely going to die the first night out as the new Batman.
Because he's got no combat training.
He is just a cop who retired.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that whole thing. That's pretty stupid. If we wanted to have a successor to Batman, we should introduce him in Batman Begins.
Yep.
He should be a parallel protagonist with Bruce. That's one of the strangest things to me is that we introduce a character, give him a complete beginning, middle, end, and guess what? Now he's Batman.
I like to think that he was going to be Nightwing instead. Honor that Batman's gone.
Okay, he's going to die his first night out as Nightwing then. His costumes will be a little different on his corpse. How's that?
Yeah. No, for sure. He's dead. He's dead meat. He's very dead. But at least he's not wearing hockey pads. So
Yeah, I do love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. But it does feel a little bit like Nolan was like, can we the vibe is almost, can we just shoot some of this after we finish Inception? Just like, don't go home yet. Let's just get a little more
just stick around.
Just stick around. Let's do a couple of Batman things.
There is, in a unique
between
way,
Marion
The Dark Knight-
Cotillard, Tom Hardy, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yeah, it's a good point.
it's
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah, Michael Caine.
No, and
Michael
Cillian
Caine.
Murphy.
And Cillian Murphy.
And Cillian Murphy. In a unique way, The Dark Knight Rises is a testament to how influential good acting is on a script. It's
Yes.
like, can you imagine throwing in all of these pieces? And if somebody is just also not delivering what they've been
Right.
given,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's super detrimental.
Like if
So
it's
honestly,
not
this was a
Tom
pretty
Hardy, Joseph
risky-
Gordon-Levitt, Christian Bale, like if it's not these
Right.
people, yeah, totally.
Well, it didn't even have to be Tom Hardy. It's like that happens all the time.
Yeah,
Villain, you know, what's the, not rotisserie.
Excuse?
What's the door rotating?
Yeah.
Roulette?
No, rotate
Roulette.
like a revolving door. That's what you mean.
Revolving rotisserie.
Like a roulette chicken from the grocery
But
store.
yeah, if
Y'all
Anne
got
Hathaway
any of
doesn't
them
do well, if
roulette
Joseph
chicken?
Gordon-Levitt doesn't do well,
Yeah.
all these people that we had have full narratives that we hadn't seen.
I think maybe that's where the like conflict comes from in me, because I like the performances of these actors, but I don't care for the new characters in the script. I think that Marion and Anne and Jogo Lev and even Ben Mendelsohn are out acting the script. And it's not even that the script on the page is bad. It's just the presentation and their presence in this
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know,
here's
man.
my thing. Here's my thing. Let me, because I feel a lot of the same things you do. I just think I feel them through a different channel in my brain because I really like this story. I really love Bane as sort of a like economy terrorist, actual terrorist, brilliant strategist kind of a guy. Like I really like the blow the bridges, isolate Gotham, let it eat itself alive. It's so interesting.
It's taken almost completely from Batman No Man's Land, 1989.
I really like this.
Or 98.
He's lawful evil, yeah?
Yeah.
I would say so. I really like this story a lot. I really like even the characters in it, even the new ones. It is too hasty.
I do. That's the thing. I think it's a good Batman story. I think it is a bad sequel to The Dark Knight.
Yeah, that is, I 100% agree with that. But I think it's a good movie.
Yeah. I'll tell you where I think some of this conflict comes from that I know Doge just mentioned recently in terms of the characters. Like there is this kind of, because there's so much newness, I think what makes it difficult is because the acting is done so well. So you don't have the hierarchy. You don't get to just easily say like, well, of course we're going to get rid of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character because it was poor. It was a poor job altogether. Right. Like he just didn't do. So now that we have to keep everything, we feel like our basket is not big enough.
Yeah.
And so we're just like, I don't know. I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings because I can imagine it without Selena Kyle, but I kind of can't. What do they do?
It does feel like about 10 pounds a movie stuffed into a 5-pound bag.
It's a little bit like somebody invites you over for like a 3-course meal and the first course is like this incredible soup. And you're like, thank you. That was a great soup.
First of all, no such thing.
Incredible soup?
Soup is a drink.
That's a dumb take.
I always want something to chew when I have soup.
That's a dumb take.
It doesn't feel like a meal.
So the first course is an incredible soup. The second course, the most delicious steak and veggies. I mean, better than restaurant quality. This person has really blown you away. And you're like, I cannot wait for dessert. And then for dessert, it's just the first soup again with some extra seasonings. And it's like, this is a little bit better than the first time. I'm actually already full and done with soup, though, and would like to have moved on to something to complete this meal. And now I think that's what I mean. Started it again.
That's what I mean by this feeling like an iteration rather than an innovation. In a series known for innovating with every entry, to choose to only iterate on the last one and to do that by getting, it feels like the story got wider and not deeper, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's just like, let's focus on a lot more people rather than focus even more on the same people.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know, man. It's tricky. May I super pump though? I feel like I haven't been very positive.
You haven't been.
I wish you would.
Everybody's shocked by it too.
I know. I'm usually the ray of sunshine.
Just a beacon of light.
In our pod cave. The decision of Nolan to actually definitively end this movie. He's quoted as saying superhero movies tend to just blow up and up and up and balloon and balloon and balloon and balloon. And so for this to have an ending is something you don't really get in comic books. And so I wanted to do something different and actually definitively end a superhero story. And I cannot think of another superhero movie that has ever ended, just had an ending. Almost every single one of them end the way, like the most egregious ones are the Marvel movies that it just kind of stops. And it's like, well, I guess I got to go see the next Avengers or got to go see Captain Marvel to see what happens next. Or I think this is the more subtle ones that end the way that Batman Begins does, where it's like our main story's over and then the last scene is like, there's a new guy in town and you won't believe what he's like. And then the hero runs off in the distance like Catwoman tried to do. But this one definitively ends, has a definitive ending. Our main characters all end somewhere. We have what appears to be maybe a slight sequel tease with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, I was about to say, isn't that the same thing as we got a new guy in town?
I don't think so, because our main character's story is over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't think of another superhero movie that actually ends, where the superhero says, I'm done superheroing. Yeah. I'm sure there is one, but I cannot think of a single movie besides this one.
A little bit with the death of Iron Man.
Sure, but every single other character in that movie
I hear you.
says, I'm going to keep on superheroing. I don't know. I just think that's a really great...
is Shazam a superhero?
I have not seen Shazam.
I'm kidding. I can't remember. I think I've seen it once.
I do love Zachary Levi, though.
Yeah. Oh, no. I was thinking of something else. What's the Shaquille O'Neal one?
That's Kazam?
Kazam.
Yeah. I was trying to make a joke and I fell into like an actual beach.
Zachary Levi, he played basketball. Very tall basketball player.
Very tall basketball player.
He is a tall guy.
Owns
I bet
Papa
he
John's
can
now?
play basketball.
Yeah.
He can play basketball. He looks like Papa John.
Hey, Shaq should definitely. I'm not yoinking a bit from another podcast. I just am agreeing with something that I have heard said is that they should absolutely change the name of Papa John's to either Papa Shaq's or Pizza Shack, which is funny because it's like Pizza Hut.
Yeah, why not? Isn't he like the majority owner?
Yeah,
he's like the big boy of it now.
I think he's like default CEO. He's daddy. He's pizza daddy. And I think that they should definitely change the name. I have no interest in ordering from a pizza restaurant named after a racist, but I would definitely order pizza from a place named after Shaquille O'Neal, which is hilarious.
May I super dump? Okay.
Interesting piggyback on your super pump. My super dump is because I feel like Nolan's better than this, and it was a great opportunity. And Chelsea talked about it too. She's the one who actually brought it up, and I was like, oh my God, yes. I think it could have been much more fun if we don't actually see Bruce Wayne at the table. We just see the face lit up of Alfred smiling really big, and then we just don't show it.
I agree, 100%.
I think we didn't need it. We really didn't. And coming from the guy who that spinning top never really stopped, it was like, my guy, just make this your thing.
Completely agree.
Like with how much you love the diddy, right? Most people would say yes, because so you keep the build up, keep the like, oh, it looks like Bruce fixed the autopilot. Oh, all these things he's set up in place. And then there's those bright white eyes of Alfred finally getting what he wanted, but you don't show us.
I agree.
Bruce and Selena Kyle.
My guess is it's because they wanted to show us that it was Selena, and I think you could have even shown her without showing that it was Bruce across the table from her.
Yeah, just reverse it. Have Bruce have his back to Alfred.
Well, or just have her back, like we get her profile like before, and there's no one sitting across from her. She's expecting someone. Like even that is fine. I just don't think we needed to see Bruce.
Yeah, didn't need to see Christian Bale there.
No.
My super dump is the Batman fake out death.
What?
He did not eject. He did not eject. We showed Batman's eyes in the plane lit by the sunrise or sunset that he's flying into. And then the very next shot is the plane flying away and exploding.
There was like 3 seconds left, right?
Right.
When we still see him in the
And we see him still in the plane. We don't see him eject. That feels like the movie's like, oh, stupid. You thought Batman died? You're so dumb. He actually ejected.
So I have read a theory
that does not work to me at all.
We never see the Batmobile in this movie. We see the prototype that it came from.
Right, because it was destroyed.
And I have read a theory that he is in a new Batmobile driving away at that point. Like that he's not actually in the Bat.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
But why is that? Why is that stupid though?
Because that doesn't there needs to be something other than I'm reading an internet theory to figure out why Batman didn't actually blow himself up.
No. I don't care about the actual Batmobile part. That's irrelevant to me. I'm asking.
Without the Batmobile part, that doesn't work to me. Because if you just...
It is a nuclear bomb.
If you show me something happening, of course I'm going to believe it. So why is it treated as this big reveal that suddenly... we watched Tony Stark die, right? We watched him snap and pass away. If he just came back in another movie and oh, I faked my death. How? We watched you die. How did you escape the bomb, Batman? We watched your plane blow up.
Yeah, but this is different, right? Because we don't watch him die. We watch the plane blow up. And it's not another movie, it's this movie. I feel like you're making two different points here.
We watched Rachel Dawes. We watched the warehouse blow up that she was sitting in. We didn't see her blow up, right? She was sitting in it. She was sitting in it, and then it immediately cut to a shot. We saw the fire start in the corner, and then it immediately cut to a shot of the warehouse blowing up. If she had just walked in on this one and said, I didn't die, I faked my death, I think it doesn't work. I think the Batman...
I agree that doesn't work because she's not a genius superhero with an eject button who is purposefully flying a bomb away from us.
I'm loving this.
But he did not eject from the plane.
You don't know that. I mean, first of all, clearly he definitely did. I don't know.
I love
With
this.
all the
I
other
feel like
complaints you have had about this movie, this feels like a weird super dump to zero in on because I think that it's totally believable that he ejected when we didn't see him or is not in the plane.
When could
or
we
that's
have not seen
that's
him,
an
though?
earlier shot of him getting the plane on course. Like, if there's autopilot, why does he even have to be in it beyond, like, why couldn't he have jumped out on the roof of that building that it flew over and now it's just gone?
Because we saw it fly over the roof of that building and we saw him not jump out of it.
No, we see it from the ground level go over the roof, then we see it on the other side.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I think it's intentionally cut in a way that, like, when you first watch it, it feels like I must have missed something.
Yeah.
And rewatching it does not. I was looking for the moment, like, when is Batman not in this plane flying this bomb? Every single time that I've watched this movie since I saw it in theaters, when is Batman not in the plane flying this bomb? And he's never not in the plane flying the bomb away until it blows up. And then we see him at the very end.
Maybe all of Gotham was destroyed and that is Alfred's last moments before death.
Could
he
be.
sees what he hopes for.
Could be a vivid hallucination.
Anything that we learned from The Prestige is that it's the twin that is at the
Yeah,
actual-
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Deuce Wayne had to drive the plane into the explosion. He's been keeping him in a cage for years just for this one moment. He's like, now it's your time to shine, Deuce.
all the cutscenes of them sharing the same scars. Like,
Gosh, The Prestige is so
Yeah.
good.
It is good. I think that that brings me to a interesting. I think that Nolan is just in general a lot better than this movie.
I agree.
I think this is pretty far and away. I mean, now that we've officially concluded our Nolan series that we started 2 years ago, I feel like this is easily the worst Nolan movie.
I think it's his most phoned in,
yeah,
worse than Insomnia?
for sure. I don't think it's
certainly worse than Insomnia.
I don't think it's worse than Insomnia.
I think Insomnia works better together
I think
with
that
itself.
I think that this is. I like this better than Batman Begins. I think that it is. Batman Begins is so much more straightforward than this.
Is this Warner Brothers and
Yeah.
Legendary Pictures?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, this was a year before Man
I'm
of
going to
Steel.
use that for my rating
Oh.
when we get there.
Speaking of, it is time to rate this movie using the scientific cinema scale, utilizing all the science we have known to man at our very fingertips. It's perfect and as follows. The best thing we could ever say about a movie is own it, don't lend it. Buy that poster. The next best thing is buy it. That's followed by rent it and then stream it. After that is forget it. And last but certainly least, the worst thing we could ever say about a movie. God hath forsaken us.
I choose to buy The Dark Knight Rises. I think this is from what I mean, there's a lot of research that I could have done on this, but this feels like the greatest effort to fight against WB's addiction to more. Nolan was actually able to put together something that there are people that can argue that it's their favorite of one of the best, trilogies or best franchises of superhero movies specific to a specific superhero. I think he did good. I think he made a lot of the right moves. It got a lot. It was too much, probably, like we said before, that 10 pounds into a 5 pound. But it was an incredibly valiant effort to kind of throw things together. I think it is a testament to his creativity that he was able to put something together and put these pieces, even though a couple of them were missing. It's a buy.
I'm going to rent this one. This is a mostly satisfying conclusion to a superhero trilogy with an absolutely standout, game-changing middle chapter.
Right.
I think if The Dark Knight was not The Dark Knight, I would be buying this movie, or perhaps even buying the poster. But just the fact that it is, this sounds like a diss against the movie. It is so much worse than The Dark Knight, which is still really good because The Dark Knight is really, really good.
Right. Yeah.
The quality drop from The Dark Knight to this is even more apparent watching them back to back. And so I'm going to rent it.
Yeah. It's tough to make a sequel to a functionally perfect movie. Like,
Yeah.
that is very difficult. I am buying The Dark Knight Rises. I love this movie. I think it's a ton of fun. I think that, would I put it as nearly as important or good or awesome or all the things we could say about The Dark Knight? No, of course not. But it's really fun. And I think that between the performances and just sort of the Batman of it all, it is a hearty buy from this
On
gentleman.
IMDb's top 250 rated movies, number 4 is The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight Rises is on that list. It's actually number 73.
That's still pretty high.
Very high.
This movie is on a lot of lists like that. Like the AFI said it was like one of the top movies of the 2010s. It's in the top 300 of another aggregator. And I don't know. I don't want to be too much of a detractor. I think it has to be some residual shine of The Dark Knight
100%.
on this.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Even for me, it's
Like,
that.
Yeah. I just think objectively
dynamic.
on its own, if The Dark Knight doesn't exist, this doesn't make those lists.
Yeah. I think a dynamic that's going to be really interesting for me, and it's because I forgot that we were getting some really good MCU alongside, the Avengers releasing the same year,
Yeah.
getting that alongside, the best that we've seen of DC, to kind of have that overlap.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see what influences the other.
It does feel a little bit like, maybe this is a sequel tease for next week's episode about the Batman. It does feel like WB spent the past 10 years trying to be like, what do people really want to see in a Batman? And tried a couple of Batflecks and then are like, no, what they want is Zodiac. They want David Fincher. They want like gritty, realistic Batman. So we're going to give it to him again.
Maybe. I just have all the faith in the world in Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson.
I do too. But I think tonally, it's hard to argue against the fact that tonally, that seems the most similar to The Dark Knight out of any other superhero thing that we've got.
For sure.
The Batman totally feels like it could be a sleeper, like sequel or prequel or somehow connected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know it's not, but
Yeah, but just like vibe.
exact same vibe. And
Sure.
they did it again with Joker. They're like, that's what people like about Batman is when it's grumpy and gritty and realistic.
Dude, the more I've seen Joker one time, I'll never watch it again. The more I reflect
Yeah,
on
I'm not
that movie,
interested.
the more annoyed I am that people like it. It's, dude,
Yeah.
I'm disappointed. Anyway, don't forget to tune in next week as we review the review. Can we really call this a review podcast? We're a movie discussion.
Not really.
We're a movie discourse podcast. We just get on and geek out and then tell you how we think, and we hope you like us. To end today's episode, I'd like for each of us to say our name, and I think we have to say a famous quote from this movie as a different character from this movie.
I'm going to take yours. I'm taking
I go
yours.
first, so you aren't.
No.
You aren't, actually. For 2 Chunks and a Hunk, I'm Jordan Wonders, and...
Can we get some girls in here?
Yeah, I knew that.
That's so Jordan serving.
Yes.
That
It's my
outro.
birthday!
I know. We all do it.
I'm Doge, and
A hero can be anyone, even a man doing something as simple and reassuring as putting a coat around a young boy's shoulder.
We didn't talk
to let
about-
him know that the world hadn't ended.
We didn't... Was that a ghost at
That
the
was
end?
great.
We didn't talk about how
The
great
world
that
hadn't
moment is.
ended.
That's a really good reveal.
Yeah, it's good.
We didn't talk about that.
It's
That's
great.
a great reveal.
Putting a coat around the little boy's shoulders. To let him know the world had ended.
Why'd you call? Were you holding your nose?
He
Yeah,
farted.
he can't-
He farted while he was doing the quote.
he can't, it sounds like he can't breathe out of his nose. I'm pretty sure he can't breathe out of his nose when he's in the suit. Not Batman, but Christian Bale.
And I'm Carter, and
All Bane.
Your wife said you were taking a cab home.
That sounds like Morgan. That sounds like Morgan Freeman playing Bane.
it's levels, dude. It's a Nolan movie. There are levels.
I almost did the...
It's Morgan Freeman doing a Bane, doing a guy who's working the front of the party, the valet.
I failed you.
I married enough members of the Wayne family.
Mine also a little turns into Vincent Price by the end of it.
Yeah.
can wreak havoc on your skin. Hey, it's Kayla, and it's not just the weather, but as a new mom, I've seen my skin change in ways that I'm not too happy about. But that's where the Skin Center has you covered. Their most popular treatment is Botox because they're the best at it. They've been ranked a top 10 provider in the nation by Allergan Aesthetics, the makers of Botox. And their best facial is what I got. It's the HydraFacial. It exfoliates, extracts, and hydrates all at once. So save your skin from these winter blues and DM at the Skin Center MD on Instagram and mention code Kayla to get $100 off your first Botox or filler treatment or any skincare package.
You're the one everyone looks to for answers. Come rain or shine, the job must get done. And you're the one who makes it happen. We get you, Jackie in Fresno, putting your employee safety first. And Manny in Chattanooga, whose local Granger team knows him by name. We're here for you and all the ones who get it done. With 24/7 customer support and access to product specialists to help you find what you need. Call, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.